So hello everybody, welcome to my YouTube channel Java Guru Ravi, and I Ravi Kansa welcome you in this new video. So let's get started. So hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel Java Guru Ravi, and today I have brought some basic concepts, the basic concepts regarding our programming skills. Basically, as a student we do not bother about these three aspects, but as an industry expert you need to follow these things. So what are those three things that you have to keep in mind, and you have to get it involved in your daily practicing, because it will not come overnight. So what is the first thing? First thing is significant naming conventions. Means when you create anything in your program, your naming convention should be significant. When you create a class, when you create data members, when you create some function, so these functions, variables and classes should be given some significant names. Generally we create some variables like int a, int x, int I, so they are not significant. It means suppose you want to create a variable to hold some value of age, so rather than writing int a, we should write int age. If you want to store some name, so rather than writing string n, you should write string name, so that it will help the others also to understand which variable is meant for which particular purpose. So this is the first aspect that you have to understand. Always use significant names so that you can use it later part of your program. Plus the others who are reading, who are going through your code will understand why this variable, why this function, why this class has been created. Second thing that industry is expecting is proper indentation. So proper indentation means when you are writing a code, so you should properly use the tabs to align the code, so that anybody who is reading out the code will be finding it easy to understand where the block is starting, where the block is closing. If you are writing everything aligned to the left side only, which generally as a beginner level programmer we are doing, right? So we'll understand this thing. Using proper indentation becomes very important for you to debug your problems. Whenever you get some error like reach end of file while passing the errors, there you have to now check which closing braces or which opening braces is missing, right? And the third thing is again which is the most important expectation from the industry, is writing proper comments. And as a programmer, as a student programmer, we hardly write proper comments, and industry is devoting proper weightage. Approximately 10 to 15% weightage will be given to the comment writing when you go for the training, right? So proper comments doesn't mean you have written a int a and you are writing it is used to store the age. It's not writing proper comments. Proper comments writing means when you are applying some logic. Let's say you are checking that whether the number is prime or not. So in that case, before writing the logic, you should write what you are writing here, what you are going to do here. So writing proper comments, proper indentation and significant naming is extremely important as the requirement of the company. But it is not going to hamper your performance of the program. Program will be working properly even if you are not using these three things. But as a professional, as an IT industry expert, you should be following these things, right? So if you are using your IDE, integrated development environment, if you are using on some platforms, so proper indentation is automatically provided. As soon as you create, if you open a curly braces, you press enter, automatically indentation is provided. So you need not to take care of this thing as much, but these things, these two things, significant naming and writing proper comments, is extremely important, right? So now significant naming convention. So if you talk about the naming convention, so naming convention is provided for us so that we can write the names in proper way. And how it will be utilized, it will be useful for you also when you are using the same classes or data members in your own program, as well as it will be used by the others. I'll just take an example. Let's say there is a class string builder, right? And you want to create the object of string builder. I don't know who has created this string builder class, but just what you know is the name of the class, right? So let's say I want to create the object of string builder. So the naming convention is followed by the Java library. Java API, whatever library is provided, they are following the naming convention. All the industry experts are following that naming convention, and as a programmer, we should also follow the naming convention. So what is the naming convention for classes? If you talk about the classes, so naming convention says that every word's first letter should be capital, right? It means if you are creating a class, my Java program, so how it should be written? It should be written class my Java program, and you can see here I have written every word's first letter capital. M, my is the first word, M is capital. Java is the second word, J is capital. Program is the third word, so I am using the P as the capital letter. Right? So these are the naming convention for classes, enumerations, and interfaces. If you create any class, enum, or interface, so you should use this naming convention. Even if you are not using this, you are not going to get any kind of compilation error, you are not going to get any kind of problem, but it will create a problem for you as well as for others. How it can create a problem? Let's say I haven't created the my Java program in this manner. I could have written like this. I have written like this. Now this is also the same name, my Java program. But suppose you have to create the object of this class, how you will write this? You will have to refer each and every character and ask its case, whether it is uppercase, whether it is lowercase. Why? Because Java is strongly case sensitive language. Right? Java is strongly case sensitive. It means capital A is different from small a. If you create a class A, so you cannot use this A to refer the same A. Java is strongly case sensitive. So suppose if anybody is creating this kind of a class name, so just think about how many times you have to refer to this name to create its object. Just think about. You will check whether M is capital or not, Y is capital or not, J is capital or not. So it will become very challenging. The only solution here will be just copy it. This is the only solution. So that's why a naming convention has been decided. Now I blindly use any class from Java library or any other. Let's say you have created a class, let's say my string tokenizer. So I know that you have followed the class naming convention. So you must have written in this manner, my string tokenizer. That's it. I need not to ask you, I need not to refer it, I need not to Google it out, which is the uppercase character and which is the lowercase character. Right? So this is the importance of naming convention. So let us understand what are the different naming conventions. So as I told you, for the classes, interfaces and enums, the naming convention says that capitalize each word. Means every word's first letter is capital. Second thing that we create inside any class is method. Right? So for the methods, the naming convention is camel case. Camel case means every word's first letter is capital except the first word. Means for the first word, all the characters will be in the lower case, but for the rest, other words, every word's first letter will be capital. It means you take the example of already existing methods, like in the string class, you have a method to uppercase. So how to uppercase might have been written over there, because naming convention is followed. So for to uppercase, the naming is to. It is first word, so all letter is in the lower case. Then upper, Upper is the second word, so U is capital. And then the third word is case. Case means C is capital. So two uppercase method is written in this manner. This is the naming convention for the functions or methods in Java. Every word's first letter is capital except the first word. Is it okay? Now the third thing that we create in the Java programming is variable. Variable is any data member whose value can change. So the naming convention for the variables is same as the method. It means every word's first letter is capital except the first word. Let's say you want to create a variable date of birth. You want to create a variable to store the date of birth. So again I told you, now you have to incorporate two things. One is significant names and proper naming convention. So significant names means you should not write int d, yeah, string d. You should write some significant name, proper name, and you should follow the naming convention. So I can write here, let's say I am creating the date of birth. So I should write here string and date of birth. So date of birth is having three words. So I can use date, first word, all in the lowercase, then subsequent words will be in the first character in the uppercase of birth. So this is your variable string date of birth. Right? So we have covered naming convention for the classes, interfaces and enums. Then we talked about the naming convention for the variables and methods. So for variables and methods it is same. The last thing is when you declare any program, so in the program we can use a constant. So the naming convention in the constant is all uppercase. In the entire Java library, whenever you see a constant, so all constants are declared in all uppercase. Like if you go to the integer class, so in the integer class there are constants min value and max value. So how min value is written here? Because it is a constant, so you will be writing here min underscore value. Min underscore value. So this is a constant. Majority of the constant, when I say majority of the constant, so almost 99% constants in Java library are declared in all uppercase manner. And we are also supposed to declare the constants in the same fashion. And one more thing here I'd like to add, in Java we don't use the const keyword to declare a constant, which is used in C++. So in Java also const is a keyword, but we don't use it. Two keywords are there which are reserved but which are not used in Java. One is the const, second one is goto. So these are the two keywords which we never use. So const, instead of using const, how you declare a constant in Java? We use the final keyword here. So if you want to declare it as an integer constant, so I will be writing here int and we put a final keyword here. So final int min value. This is going to be a constant here. Right? So this is your naming convention. Apart from this, I don't think there is anything which you create and you need a naming convention. Either you declare some variable or you declare some constant, you declare some methods and you declare some class enum and interfaces. So that's all about your naming conventions. Plus, one more thing I would like to discuss here is when you create any identifier. So what is an identifier? Identifier is some names that you assign. Right? You have declared some class, you want to assign some name over there to the class, so that is an identifier. You want to create some function, so you want to give some name. So any name that you assign in any programming language is called as identifier. So for identifier there is some rule. There are certain characters which are allowed to be there inside the identifier. You cannot use any combination of characters. For that you need to use certain set of characters. So in case of Java, total of 64 characters are allowed in the naming. Inside any identifier, you can use any combination of 64 characters. So what are those 64 characters? I'll discuss here. To talk about the allowed character sets in case of identifier in Java. So total 64 characters are allowed. So first set of characters is A to Z, all the uppercase characters. So all the uppercase alphabets, English alphabets are allowed in the identifier. So total 26 alphabets are there. So we can use any combination of 26 uppercase alphabets. Then similarly you can use any combination of 26 lowercase characters. So total 26 plus 26, 52 characters are allowed. Plus digits. So these are the characters. Then we are allowed to use any of the digits. So what are the digits? Obviously the digits are from 0 to 9. So you can use 0 to 9 any digit. So now 52 plus 10, 62 characters are there. Then if you talk about the other two characters, they are special characters. So the point to be noted here is only two special characters are allowed here. What are the two special characters? The first one is underscore. Underscore is allowed as a special character in the identifier, and why it has been provided, it has to be understood. It is provided so that you can create some visibility. When you are creating large identifiers, so you want to introduce some space over there, but space is not allowed as a character in the identifier. So instead of using space, you can use underscore. Then the second special character that is allowed is dollar sign. So dollar sign is the second special character which you can use while creating any identifier. So total 64 characters are allowed. Dollar is generally used for nested classes. When you create some nested class, so the nested class file is created with outer class name, dollar nested class name. So that's why this dollar symbol is also introduced. So apart from this, you are not allowed to use any special characters, and the biggest mistake that students are doing is they are putting a space in the identifier. So space is not allowed. If you want to introduce some visibility, use underscore. Hyphen is also not allowed. So now we can say ki, okay, these are those 64 characters and you can create any identifier using these things. But there are certain constraints. What are the constraints? The first constraint is, it is saying that any identifier you create must not start with a digit. Identifier must not start with a digit. It means I want to create a variable int a1. A1 is allowed, but 1a is not allowed. You can create any identifier which can start with any other character, but it must not start with any digit. If you are creating identifier which is something like this, if you are writing int a1, this is okay, no problem. But if you are creating something like this, int 1a, this is wrong. So this is how we can understand the limitation, or you can say rule which says ki this is not allowed. So this is the first restriction which says ki okay, any identifier should not start with a digit. Second thing, which is not illegal right now, but it is giving you the warning. The second identifier you can say which is giving you nowadays warning, but later on it may be a compilation error. So currently it is giving you the warning that this is allowed currently, but later on it can be a deprecated one. So what is that? Using only underscore as an identifier. Means right now if you write here int underscore, this is valid because you have said okay, any combination of 64 characters I can create int a, I can create int dollar, I can create int underscore also. So it is allowed currently, but it may be deprecated later on. So it is currently giving you the warning, and this question is getting asked in the Oracle certification exam. This is currently allowed, but later on may not be allowed. The reason I have already told you, underscore is introduced in the allowed set of characters with a reason. The reason was you have to introduce some visibility over there. But putting only underscore, it is not making a sense. You can have a underscore b, that's okay. Underscore is representing some space over there, but only underscore. So that's why they are saying, okay, currently it is allowed, but later on we don't guarantee. We don't commit anything about the future. So int underscore a is allowed, but int underscore is not allowed. Means it is currently allowed, but later on it may not be. Right? So these are certain rules regarding your identifier. So again repeating, only 64 characters are allowed in the character set to be used for the identifier. Second restriction is any identifier must not start with a digit. Digit should not be the first character. And third thing we should take care about is only underscore should not be used. I'll say should because currently it is okay, but later on it may not be. So that's all about the basic things that you must inculcate in your programming skills to ensure that you will be surviving, you will be feeling comfortable in the IT in the future to come.
So if you see here, so I have created this class industry, but in this class I am creating two variables. One is string n. So although I have intended to create this variable to store the name of the industry, and I am writing it as a comment here, but this is not a proper comment actually. Writing this explanation here to explain that this string variable is for storing the industry is not a significant comment. Same with this s variable. Here s variable I am creating to store the number of employees, but this is not a significant name. Instead of using n and s, on the right hand side I have created a string variable called as industry name. So this industry underscore name is a significant variable here. Similarly, to store the number of employees, I have taken here a variable int strength. So it clearly indicates I need not to write any kind of comment here that this variable is storing the number of employees. So this is how we create the significant names. Same with the function name. Here in the left hand side we have created a function called as increase. But this increase function is not clearly stating what we are trying to increase. Similarly, here int p parameter we have taken, but p is not explaining ki p is not self-explanatory that it is to increase by a percentage or it is increasing by a number. Instead of writing this on the right hand side, if you see here I have written increase strength. The identifier of this function is increase strength. So it is clearly explaining that this function is to increase the strength, and the parameter, this local variable percent I have written here. So it is clearly understandable that the parameter is some percentage and the function is supposed to increase the strength by the given percentage. Now coming back to the significant comment, on the right hand side you can see here I have written a proper multi-line comment which is saying okay, the below logic is for increasing the employee strength by the percentage given in the parameter. So it means anybody who is looking into your program can easily understand that what the below statement, this statement is going to do, right? And again the same thing, the logic you have written on the left hand side may not be clear, but on the right hand side we have taken significant variables, so it can be easily understood that strength is added with the strength into percentage multiplied and then divide by 100. So it is including all the three requirements. One is the significant naming, second one is writing proper comments, and you can see the third one is proper indentation. On this left hand side program you can see that we haven't used the proper indentation, so readability of this code is compromised. plus if you miss any curly braces, let's say I forgot to write this curly braces, in that case it will be very difficult for us to track. We have to do the pairing. Okay, this is opening, so where it's closing, it is closing here, then it's opening. So this is how we will be doing, but it will become very tedious task if the number of lines in the code is very high, right? So we have to go with this right hand side approach, proper indentation. This closing braces is closed here, you can easily identify. This opening braces is closed here, so it is very easy to keep track of all the opening braces, closing braces, and it is easy to identify where your statement is starting, where it is ending. So this is how the program should be written and which is expected by the industry. So I hope you understood. Thank you.
So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you find this video useful, so please like, subscribe and share with all of your friends so that they can also get benefited. Ravi Sahu signing off. Thank you.